Hello and welcome to the GameShop MythCast, episode number 27. I am your host, the vocal terrorist, Jesse Vocterain, the official broadcaster of Mythology, and today we're here with one of our Protoss players, that is Viper, and he'll be going up against a Barcode Terran on Derelict Watcher. But I have a surprise for you today, because you see, I got tired of being all by my lonesome, so with me today is none other than the fantastic, the wonderful, the incredible BelleNOiR. Belle, lovely to have you here.
Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to do a cast with you, and this is actually the first time I'm doing anything for Clan Mythology with you in a remote fashion such as this, so I'm happy to be here, ladies and gamers. This is going to be awesome. And the map we are on currently is a Derelict Watcher, of course, and we have ourselves a pretty nice PvT coming up.
We do indeed. I'm looking forward to this. I always enjoy watching Viper play, mostly because he tends to go Stargate an awful lot, and honestly that's what I'm expecting here as well. I'm expecting some Oracle play for him. Of course there's no guarantee, but that just seems to be the way he sets up his games. Normally going for a quick expansion, and then going into some stupid double Stargate play.
Oh yeah, and especially since he now scouted the gas for the Terran player. Usually when a Terran takes the gas, it kind of means that even if he does go reactored barracks into an expansion, his marine count will not be as high as it would have been if you just go gasless expo, because you are going to be using that gas for something. A reactor takes a minute to build, so that's 3 less marines that you're going to be having. Of course, then you're double producing them, but if you, as a Protoss, if you go with a quick Stargate, then you can surprise your Terran opponent, and he's not going to have that many anti-air units out by that time. And as we look over to the Protoss base, we do see that it is a double gas opening with 4 probes on the gas. So a Stargate is entirely not out of the question, the probe's still out on the map.
Yep. The one question for me is whether or not he's going to throw down a second gate just about now. I don't think so. It's now getting a bit late for that. Sometimes he does like to go that Zealot Stalker opening. As it is though, it looks like it is just going to be the one gate. Once the SCV's gone, we'll have to see whether or not he puts down a Stargate. I'm assuming he will, because now there are 3 probes in each gas.
Well, it can still be a Twilight Council opening where he goes either Blink or DTs. It would not be a bad idea to do it on this map, to be quite honest. But we can already see that the Barcode Terran player is being very, very, very careful. He's building a bunker on the top of the ramp. He's getting himself a factory and a reactor on the barracks. So let's see. He's going to be producing mines. That is going to be his way of saying, I want to be safe versus air harass. Meanwhile, dropping down the starport, so I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for something like a Widow Mine drop into an expansion. Now this type of play can be countered very, very heavily by DTs, which is not what Viper is doing. You predicted correctly that he will be going for a Stargate, and that's what he's up to.
Yep, this is one thing about the Mythology players that sometimes gets to me. They are very, very set in their ways with the style they like to play. We see Nathan, when he goes with his Terran play, he likes Widow Mine drops, he likes Hellbat drops, and that's every single game. With Viper, it's Stargate. While these builds can be very, very effective, I find there's little variability within the players, and sometimes that can come back to haunt them.
Well, speaking of Hellbat drops, we do have an armory going down in the Camp Terran on the blue side of the map, so probably going to be doing something like that. If we look at the factory right now, the armory, when it finishes, I'm going to be looking at the factory, what it ends up producing, because the Widow Mines, they're not moving out. The medevacs are in production, but the Widow Mines are still just posing defensively as the expansion is going down.
Well, we do have that first... we do have the factory rally to the Marines here. Okay, it is going to be the Widow Mine drop. 2 Widow Mines, 4 Marines, very, very standard. But the first Oracle is out for Viper, and the Oracle and the Medevac might actually pass one another.
And they do.
Oh, they do both see each other just at the very edge. Now the question is, will either player have noticed that? Will they have responded? So far, we have no missile turrets going up for the Barcode Terran. Meanwhile, Again, we have nothing really at home beyond the Mothership Core just finished and a second Oracle.
The medevac is trying to find its way in. If Viper was paying attention, he could actually have used the second Oracle in the main base to defend versus that Widow Mine drops. It could have killed off the Widow Mines before they actually burrowed, both of them. But as it is, the Oracle is heading towards the natural expansion. The first Oracle got himself 3 nice kills, but that is going to be it. And the Hellbats have they been cancelled, or are
the Hellbats were killed by the Oracle?
Oh,
that was the 3 kills. He got both Hellbats as they came out. As it is, the Mothership Core has now fallen at that expansion. Once again, the probe's going to have to escape. Just 1 Stalker and 2 sentries. Not the best of things to defend against a speed medevac. But now the Widow Mines are picked up, moving towards the back of the main, and then going to try and get out of there. The Oracle, of course, has no anti-air, so the best it can do is follow the medevac, just to keep an eye on it.
So far the economy is pretty even. 29 probes for the Protoss player Viper, 27 for the Terran player. The Terran player got himself out 1 Viking just to be safe versus those Oracles and be able to catch them. And Viper very smartly getting a Phoenix, and that Phoenix helps him to get rid of that pesky medevac flying around. So Viper is going to be feeling a lot more safer right now, as is his Terran opponent as well. Having that Viking out helps a ton. Now let's see if he's going to be continuing with the Hellbat drops or not. It does look like he's going for a very beefy army here, producing Hellbats and Marauders, getting himself Stimpack. Everything can be healed by medevacs, and both of these units have tremendous amounts of hit points. Hellbats having 135 and Marauders having 125. Very difficult to kill.
Yeah, unfortunately there is very little anti-air there for him again. Now there are 2 Phoenixes just able to harass. There's really no response from the Barcode Terran at this point. Only the 1 Viking, and it's taking a long time to actually get out there and respond. So these medevacs are going to start to be picked up. They should get back over the top of that Widow Mine.
The Widow Mine. Nathan sees it. I mean, Viper. He sees it, and he's avoiding it very nicely.
Oh, 1 Widow Mine with a good shot there. Does take out one of the Phoenixes, but does get a medevac kill with the other one before it's forced to retreat. So Viper, I mean, both players really in a decent position. You know, neither one got any huge damage done.
You know, this is one of the few instances where I would actually not mind the Protoss player to go full air. Because as you mentioned, there's not that much anti-air on the ground, and if you build additional Stargates and you start pumping out Void Rays and Phoenixes, then you're in a pretty decent spot. The Void Rays will make sure they kill off the Marauders and the Hellbats in a reasonably quick fashion, and the Phoenixes will make sure that you can kill Vikings and medevacs just as quickly.
Yeah, he's really getting some good use out of these Phoenixes. Picking off SCVs, Hellbats, forcing medevacs around, and just not letting the Barcode player stabilize at any point.
Oh, the Widow Mine, the Widow Mine!
Oh, good shot does get the Phoenix. Of course, in the meantime, he is expanding again. His 3rd base is nearly completed, while the Terran player still confined to 2 bases at this point. Really doesn't have the amount of SCVs that would require an expansion yet.
There's the second Stargate from Viper as well as a Forge. So he definitely, even getting +1 air weapons, so he definitely wants to be going into Sky Toss here. That's a good call, I have to say, because seeing as there are no Marines on the ground and your opponent is going for Hellbats and Marauders, the only anti-air he's going to have are going to be those Vikings, and with enough Phoenixes and Void Rays, you can kill those Vikings very quickly, and then all that is left on the ground are those Hellbats and Marauders, and it kind of plays out in a similar way as heavy Roach Link styles do versus Protoss in the ZVP matchup. So if you want to manage the ground forces, you get a couple of sentries, but if you go full on air and the Terran does not scout it, he doesn't respond, you're going to have an army he doesn't have an answer to.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm really liking this play from Viper. He's getting so much utility out of these Phoenixes. They're almost never stopping. Look at this, he's actually going to pick off all 3 medevacs here, leaving this bio with no medevac support whatsoever as it pushes out across the map. Now he can just start to live with impunity. There is nothing there to stop the air army. Meanwhile, this is still an incredibly beefy army, however. But with two
But
oracles coming
Viper does have oracles, which can kill units very, very, very quickly. And he does have force fields, so if he force fields correctly here, 1, 2, 3 force fields going down, which allows those oracles and the void rays to do their damage. And without those medevacs, this army is not getting healed anytime soon. Oracles, void rays, and phoenixes flying in, picking up stuff as they go and charging their beams. This army, this attack has been completely smashed, squashed, and beaten down into the ground. Viper suddenly in a commanding position with a 40 supply lead and a base up.
Yep, the barcode player really not having responded so far.
Oh, he did. He did. He typed so OP.
That's one response. Not a very good response, though, to a heavy air force. Really, that was just an awful move out. Had a very huge ground-based army, no anti-air with it at all. The fact the starport only now with a reactor on it, so that he can start to respond with more and more Vikings. And all of this is coming very too little, too late for me. With that third base of Viper already established, he now has 6 assimilators mining. He's got cannons up to defend, just in case of more drops. And that army of his is starting to get very, very beefy back at home with those void rays coming out 2 at a time.
But right now we see the Terran player switching into more of the marine heavy composition. We do see 4 additional barracks, 2 of them with reactors. Wouldn't even be surprised if those 2 additional ones would drop down a reactor as well. Now versus this, if Viper wants to be continuing this play, he needs Storm, and we do see that he's thinking along the same route probably as I am, adding on another Stargate and a Twilight Council. Now as soon as he gets that Storm, and he lands that Storm on top of the Marines that the Terran is producing right now, as soon as those Marines are gone, evaporate, literally, then the same situation we just saw moments ago is going to repeat itself. Viper is just going to be dominant in the air, and there is not going to be anything that the barcode will be able to respond with.
Yeah, we're now also seeing that the third base of the barcode player is trying to be landed. The Phoenixes, however, have scouted it and are doing a great deal of damage already, taking it down to almost half of its life points.
Oh, I have to be careful. Those Marines do have Sim and +1. They're going to be taking down those Phoenixes reasonably quickly here, and Viper does end up losing 1 Phoenix there. This is kind of a dangerous time for Viper at this point in time. He is getting carriers, but I really would have liked him to start getting himself charge lots and Storm.
Yeah, while that may be a sound tactic strategically, I just have to say, fuck yeah, carriers! As we know,
yeah.
I love myself some good carrier play, and now that we have 3 Stargates all producing carriers, we are going to see some exciting stuff. I like that he's getting the shield upgrades as well from the Forge, building the Forge obviously for the cannons as well, but having those shield upgrades is a very good idea. Observer coming out as well, just so that he can get vision of any Widow Mines, and also just to keep an eye out for further drops in the future, as of course that 4th base of his is finishing up. Staying 1 base ahead of the Terran at all times is very much a sound strategy.
Oh yes, it is. One thing I mean, okay, so he's not going Storm, he's going mass air. So one thing I am missing from this strategy is actually a 2nd cybernetic score for double upgrades, because carriers with interceptors are really damn good, but only if they're heavily upgraded. Without those armor upgrades, you know, a carrier can withstand tremendous amounts of punishment if it's got level 3 air armor. If it doesn't, then pretty much both the interceptors and the carriers are more of like a sitting duck, and it can get focus fire down by the Vikings and the Marines very quickly. Another thing, Marines do high amounts of DPS. They can get rid of interceptors before you can say stim. So once those interceptors are gone, the carrier loses all of its firepower, and that's not a thing you want to have happen to you as a Protoss player.
Yep, and that's a very strong scan there by the barcode Terran. Means he does see those carriers, and he should right now, well, just be a little bit worried. His upgrades are still not in the greatest of positions, but he's working on it. I think I'd have actually preferred the vehicle and ship weapons over the armor, or ship weapons rather, over the armor, simply due to the fact that you're getting these Vikings out. You know you're facing this Sky Army, and I'd rather be able to kill it quicker than have your Vikings survive a bit longer.
I have to agree with that, especially since the carriers have such a high amount of hit points. If you click on a carrier, you can see that it's got, together with the shields, it's got 450 hit points. That's only 50 hit points less than an Ultralisk, who's got 500, or 550, actually, I think. So 50 to 100 hit points less. That's not that much. I mean, it's, what, 1 or 2 volleys of a Marine army onto there, but still, quite a lot of hit points. I like the addition of ghosts by the Barcode player, though, I have to say.
Yeah, well, it's time for a huge push out. Missile turrets and Wintermines doing a lot of initial damage, and now the carriers are going to find themselves shortly unsupported by ground army. The ground army is gone, so the carriers are going to have to do a lot of damage here. And now the bio is starting to tear through the Sky Army. The bio is being taken out piece by piece. One carrier already falls, however, but it's looking like this bio army is just having to be lifted here. Not sure if that's the wisest move, as it means the Vikings are now free to be picked up by the carriers. And it looks like the Barcode Terran has decided now is not the fight to have, and he wants to try and get out of there and perhaps do a counter up into the third base of Viper. I'm not sure how viable that's going to be.
Well, Viper is all out of money, dumping everything into more carrier production. He's trying to warp in High Templars, but those High Templars don't have Storm, so this is the one weakness of the build. As I said before, you need Storm when you're going Skytos versus a Terran, just to be able to tear through that army very quickly. So now we have double or 2 attacks by the Terran, one at the 6 o'clock and one at the 9 o'clock. The 9 o'clock attack has been shoot away. Now Viper will have to deal with the bottom attack as well, and he does.
Yep, Zealots just tearing through those Marauders.
Now I'd like to say one thing. I think the battle in the middle that we just witnessed could have gone better in a huge way for the Terran player if he only focus fired with his Vikings onto the carriers. Because if you noticed, the Vikings were firing at the interceptors the whole damn time. If they were to focus fire down the carriers, those carriers would have fallen down very quickly, while the Marines were tearing through the Void Rays and Oracles. So I still think Viper got a little bit lucky there.
No, I completely agree, and as we can see, Viper's still kind of struggling to get that supply back up. With going this heavy bio style, it's very quick to remax once you have this kind of level of production for a Terran. But with this heavy Stargate play, using a lot of production cycles on carriers, it takes a long time to get yourself back up in supply. So now that's why we're seeing this switch into Archons. But wow,
carriers are exposed.
The carriers are indeed exposed. They're doing their best to hold it off. Again, the Vikings focusing down on interceptors instead of carriers, but the carriers are still going down one by one.
They're not. In this battle, they are actually going after those carriers directly, trying to focus fire them down as quickly as possible, and you can already see how differently the battle is playing out here. The Archons are going to do a number on those Vikings, especially now with that splash when the Vikings are just directly over those Archons. And you know, if this kind of control the Barcode Terran displayed in the fight previously, when the upgrades were not as high, we can see that the level 3 air weapons are almost about to finish. He could have been in a much better position, but again, as you said, it takes a long time to rebuild what was lost by the Protoss player when he's going for a composition like this. And you can already see how expensive such a composition is. Viper is on 4 bases, 5 bases even, 4 of them mining, and he is still struggling to have enough resources for everything he's doing. And he's just mainly producing the air army, couple of Archons, and huge amounts of Zealots.
Yep, and this is where we're seeing another thing I was talking about before. The reason I got confused as to why I thought the Vikings were still firing on interceptors. He's still not upgraded their attack at all.
Yeah.
So it's still, despite having a vast amount of Vikings there, still takes them a long time to really cut down those carriers. With a few extra air upgrades in terms of the attack there, Viper would have lost every single carrier he has.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now the +3 attack for the air army of the Protoss is finished. +3 armor is just now queued up and just waiting for the... Oh, the shields are actually already in play. +3 shields. So what Viper is going for here essentially is a lot of Archons and charge lots. Shields, shields and Archons complement the air army very, very well. And also, getting those shield upgrades, not a lot of people realize this, but it also helps your buildings staying alive for longer amounts of time. So if you need to secure an additional base, it's actually viable to build cannons there, even versus a Terran, when you're having such a huge shield upgrade advantage.
Interesting point. As it is now, again, the Barcode Terran is up at 200 supply. Viper not that far off it, and I get the sense that it's going to come down to yet another large battle. And it's all going to be about who has the better composition, and most importantly, who has the better control. I like that the Terran is still trying these little drops around, but the fact is there are so many cannons now that really it's becoming hard to take with just one drop.
Yeah. And also of note is the fact that the Terran player has 12 ghosts in his army. He's probably going to deny this this 5 o'clock base without any problems whatsoever. So there it goes, and it's being cancelled by Viper. And Viper, what he's going to try to do right now, he's going to try to cut off the retreat of the Terran army, or try to chase it probably. He has to position his army very well. He doesn't want to lose 2 bases in a row, but at the same time he really wants to catch this army and prevent a retreat. And the Barcode player, he's not doing the smartest move right now. He's trying to move up the ramp and preventing himself from retreating. If he moves up the ramp, there is no way of him retreating back. But huge EMPs going off on all those Archons. Those Archons melting instantly, and right now all that's remaining are the carriers, but there is no anti-air. Just the +3 attack on those interceptors is a little bit too much for the Terran player to handle. And with this amount of carriers, 8 carriers right here, right now, and the Barcode player just can't find an efficient way to deal with them.
Nope. Viper now going to continue this push, sustaining it into the 3rd base of the Barcode Terran. As is often said, what's the best way to beat carriers? Well, don't let your opponent get carriers. And it looks like that message is holding true again.
Look at the damage output. I mean, did you see how quickly they killed everything in that base, including turrets and the holy mother of God command center?
This is what happens when you let carriers get up to 333 and then you let him get 8 of them. And the carriers by themselves, it doesn't seem to matter. They are just going to rip through this army.
Yeah, it's going to be GG pretty much very, very quickly here, because only 2 Marines and 3 Vikings, that's all the anti-air the Barcode does have. And I think that GGs are not far away.
I'm not even sure a GG is going to be coming, given the so OP comment we saw earlier. And it never feels good to get crushed by carriers. So many interceptors flying about now. It's doing its best to crash my PC.
Getting crushed by carriers is, in a certain sense, it's humiliating for a Terran player, because they have the most accessible anti-air in the game ever, and have had since Boom War. So, you know, if somebody crushes you with Sky Toss, you gotta be going like, how the hell did this even happen? Oh, we have a backstab with a fairly large group of Vikings, and Viper has to be careful not to lose too many carriers. Half of them already has gone down, 2 more joining the fight. Will this be enough to kill those Vikings off? Those Vikings are not split, so the quote-unquote AoE from the carriers is doing a number of them, and they all do go down. Does the Terran have any resources to build additional anti-air, though? I don't think so.
He really does not. He's very, very low in terms of money and gas now, and the carriers are in amongst the production facility, so once these Vikings are gone, I think that is going to be the very end of this game. Congratulations to the Barcode Terran. Holding on for as absolutely long as he can here, but this cannot last that much longer. He is going to have to admit to himself that he has been beaten here by the air army of Mythology GameShop's player Viper.
Well, he still does have some amounts of money, and he is still producing Vikings, 5 at a time. And he's still thinking of, well, if only I can kill off these last carriers, if only I can kill off these last carriers. But those are, first off, those are not the last carriers. Second, we have a contingent of zealots taking out the 11 o'clock base as we speak, so...
Yep, and there is nothing here to stop them. We actually have more SCVs headed over there right now. So, the SCVs killed, the workers killed count going up very, very quickly. We are about to hit 60 for Viper at this point in the game, while the carriers are continuing to do their damage.
Look at the middle of the map! 6 more carriers on the way.
Oh my word, and there, as expected...
Oh yeah! The rage quit!
That's what we like to see. So, guys, thank you very much for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll be back in the future with more MythCast, and hopefully, for the next few, I'll be joined again by BelleNOiR. Belle, you want to let these guys know where they can find you?
Oh yeah, sure. If you have a Facebook or a Twitter or a YouTube, it doesn't matter. If you go to either of them and put / BelleNOiR TV at the end, that's BELLNOIR TV. You can find me very, very easily and get updates on when, where, and what I'll be casting, optionally with whom.
So, that's everything for today. Thank you very much for joining me, Belle, and thank you guys at home for watching.